Topping today's news, a man believed to be connected to a recent armored truck heist shot in the Fox Hill community. CARICOM leaders concerned about crime in the region. We get an update on the Governor General's state visit to Botswana, and a nursing shortage remains a challenge for the Ministry of Health. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. It is a pleasure to have you join us. A 35-year-old man was shot dead just before 7 p.m. on Tuesday. Police say he was walking in a western direction along Romer Street in the Fox Hill community when a blue Japanese car approached him. Reports say that 3 men, all armed with high-powered weapons, got out of that car and opened fire on the victim. He was shot multiple times about the body. Police estimated at least 30 shots were fired. His killers then got back into their vehicle and fled the scene. When police arrived on scene, they found the victim lying in the streets. Emergency medical services personnel arrived, rendered assistance, but the victim showed no signs of life. There are unconfirmed reports that the victim was a 35-year-old man who was connected to a recent $1.5 million armored car robbery at the airport and a subsequent investigation into a senior police officer who has since been placed on garden leave in relation to that matter. Criminal investigators are busy trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together to identify the suspects and bring them to justice. This murder took place about 8 hours after a woman was killed during a domestic dispute on Homestead Street on Tuesday morning. If you have any information on the Fox Hill shooting, you can call Crime Stoppers in Miami. You can remain anonymous by calling 328-TIPS, 328-8477. Police officers continue to remove illegal firearms from the streets as officers from the Southwestern Division, working along with the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, confiscated 2 firearms off Fire Trail Road on Tuesday around 1 p.m. Acting on information, they arrived at a property on Allen Close where they attempted to execute a search warrant. However, upon arrival, the sole male occupant fled the property. They pursued him, but he managed to escape. Officers observed him discarding a firearm during that brief chase. They retrieved it along with another firearm that they found within the property's perimeter. Meanwhile, on Abaco, police seized a firearm shortly after 4 p.m. on Monday. While in the area of Central Pines, officers acting on information searched an abandoned appliance, discovering and confiscating the illegal weapon. This incident did not result in any arrests. Investigations continue there. The 47th regular meeting of CARICOM heads of government in Grenada ended on Tuesday. Education Minister Glenys Hannah Martin represented Prime Minister Philip Davis, who was recovering from a minor surgery. The Education Minister will brief the Prime Minister on the outcomes of those meetings. One of the topics is crime. On Tuesday, CARICOM issued a statement on crime and violence and has called on all CARICOM citizens to be a part of the solution by reporting crimes and by refusing to support criminal activity. CARICOM heads of government have stated that they are deeply concerned by the levels of crime and violence in the region, fueled in part by firearms and ammunition trafficking, transitional criminal networks, and a deterioration of social structures around the region. It is also particularly concerning about the impact of crime and violence on young people and children especially. It noted that ongoing regional national collaborations are critical to address the multifaceted challenges to crime and violence which threatens a modern Caribbean society. The Governor General, Dame Cynthia Pratt, continues her state visit to Botswana. The visit is a continuation of ongoing diplomatic efforts by Prime Minister Philip Davis to strengthen its diplomatic and economic relationships with African countries and help to diversify the Bahamian economy. Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell, who is also in Botswana supporting the Governor General, provided a brief update on the Governor General's visit.
We are in the 3rd day of a state visit of the Governor General, Dame Cynthia Pratt, to Botswana, the largest diamond-producing country in the world. Yesterday, Dame Cynthia met at length with Botswana's President Magwitsi Masisi and was treated to a state banquet. Today, she will be visiting Botswana's prisons to engage in ideas on reform and corrections.
The state visit began officially with talks on Tuesday when the Governor General met with President Magwitsi Masisi at the Cabinet Office in Gaborone to discuss matters of mutual concerns, including education, climate change, tourism, the Commonwealth, culture, agriculture, trade, investment, and law enforcement training. Again, while the Governor General is out of country on official business, Ruby Ann Dowling was sworn in as the Deputy to the Governor General last Friday. And finally, in this segment, while speaking at the opening of the Ministry of Labor and Public Service three-day labor legislation symposium to improve labor laws, the Minister of Labor, Pierre Glover, announced government plans to increase the minimum wage beyond the $260 per week that currently exists. However, the minister also revealed that government plans to introduce for the first time in the country's history a livable wage. While she agrees there needs to be a comprehensive look at possibly introducing a livable wage, she did answer like this.
All of these things are mechanisms in which we are intending to employ to ensure that workers in our country are able to survive. There is only a grouping of persons, of course, in the nation that are at the minimum wage scale, but they are, we call them the least amongst us in some instances, and we also, as an administration, want to make sure that we're taking care of them.
Minimum wage is a compulsory pay an employer must pay the employee, while living wages is the total amount required to cover basic living expenses. The minister is of the opinion that before there can be an increase in the livable wage, the government would have to find that balanced, phased approach that allows businesses to continue to thrive. Compared to many places in the world, the Bahamas is considered to be an expensive place to live in terms of food, rent, gas, and electricity costs, among other categories. You're listening to JCN News. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.